Good afternoon, everyone. This is Nicholas Orcutt with a fractured line coming to you today with another status check. How is everybody doing today? This was an unscheduled status check I'm doing today. So I apologize ahead of time. I wasn't able to plan this because there's obviously a reason I'm doing this now. As most of you know, yesterday I interviewed Paige, who had ICE agents show up to her work at a polling place. And so, I told you I'd be staying in touch with her, be checking how everything's going with her, be seeing how all that's working. So I did that today. I checked on her this morning, and much to my chagrin, I discovered that somebody else had reached out to her, and somebody else had discovered that these same agents didn't just go to her. These agents have been going around lately trying to intimidate other people. And so I'm going to see if this works. I don't know. I'm not a computer person, as most of you know. I'm not very good with computers. But I am going to attempt to share this that I have here. And so the first thing I have here, these are the two agents showing up at somebody else's house. These are the exact same two going to somebody else who is located in Rochester, New York. The person wasn't home, but they obviously went to his Nest doorbell and they wanted to see if he was here. They had the exact same paperwork that they wanted him to sign as they asked her to sign. He ended up, I think he was in New York City, is what I heard. But Paige, to her credit, she's very outspoken. She's very, very willing to fight back and to, not put up with this. She wants to make sure people know this is her saying no. This is her saying this is unacceptable. The guy who it happened to the other day is the opposite, where he is also, he's the opposite. He's afraid of any fallback. He's afraid that there might be repercussions for him. So he's trying to be quiet. He's trying not to say anything to anybody. He's trying to do his absolute best to make sure that nothing comes about it negatively for him or his family. It's sad that we are in a state right now, and we are in a world where, in America, like the country we all grew up in, where this is happening to us, right? This is something you would hear out of Nazi Germany. The government showing up to your place of work because they don't like what you said. That's not this country. That's not what we're supposed to be. That's not how we grew up. That's not what we've been taught. So it just boggles my mind that not only did this happen to Paige, but this is happening. I think I said yesterday that I believe Paige will end up being the catalyst for all of this. Paige is going to be the reason that we start hearing more and more about this, because this needs to get out there. We need to know about this. We need to understand this. I did want to also share with everybody, there was actually a video taken of the agents going to the polling place that Paige was at. And I thought it would be good to actually show it to everybody. I'm hoping everybody can see it, all right? I want to do that. So I don't know if there's any sound with that. But these are the actual agents showing up to her job. They actively went to the polling place to harass her. Thankfully, she had another coworker. I do believe there's another video where she has a coworker who actually also reported the entire situation and was like, don't sign anything. Do not sign anything. This is ridiculous, guys. I mean, this is insane. The fact that this is happening is just bananas to me. I don't know if this is the other video. This might be the same one. No, this is her coworker. And again, this is happening while she's at work. Like, that's them telling her to sign the paperwork. This isn't. And so the same agents, it's also worth noting that they don't have, like, yes, they're wearing like coats that say ICE on them, but they don't have any identifying. They don't have name badges on. They don't have a badge on. Like, not this one does. The one with the yoga pants says, because that is how I expect every officer to show up to hand me paperwork is with yoga pants. And as you can see, that was a file that Paige was talking about where they had everything. That's terrible. That is absolutely terrifying. This is America. This is the country we live in. I don't understand how this is happening. Like I said, my main goal today was I wanted to talk about how another person had come forward with it. I had told Paige when I talked to her, because he went forward to her about it, which is the best part. It's good that there's a community for them. But I had told her that, let him know that we're here, and let him know that this community will help him as well, because it's not. This isn't going to get better, and people can't do this alone. This isn't something that people can do alone, and I think we all know it's going to get worse. Did I lose my camera? I think I lost my camera here. Oh, there we go. I wanted her to go forward and make sure that she told this guy that it's going to get worse. But before I got interrupted by the camera deciding it didn't want to work, I'm not sure how many actually got to read the article I put out today. It wasn't the article I was intending to put out today. I actually have another article written about the way that kids across the country are losing healthcare right now, even though they're not supposed to be losing healthcare. That we were told when the big beautiful bill passed that children wouldn't be losing healthcare. Yet, the amount that are being dropped because of paperwork issues, they're saying that it's a problem with the eligibility restrictions on the parents, and so instead of doing the right thing and checking, because Doge cuts so many people in these departments, there's not enough people to go through and make sure that they're not getting caught and they're not kicking kids off. Those of you who saw last week, I think it was last week, I had Tyler on with me, and he talked about how his kids got kicked off of the Fidelis Medicaid, and it happened because they said he made too much money. It's not supposed to happen that way. So even, kids aren't supposed to be losing insurance due to reasons like that, when we were all told with the one big beautiful bill, children's healthcare is safe. We were told children and those who are in need, their healthcare is safe. That is showing to be categorically false across the board. And so I wrote an entire article. I haven't put that one up because it felt more important with, me having Paige on yesterday, and with what she told me today, that I covered the issue and the protesters in Texas who were arrested. Like, I'm getting kind of tired of saying I never expected to have to cover a story like this, but we had protesters who, if you want to say that the one officer, or the one person, Benjamin Song, he shot the officer. He had a bullet that hit the officer and shot him in the neck. You know what? We can give him. I'm fine with calling that. It's not even manslaughter. It's attempted murder, I guess. If you can make that case, I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think he deserved it, but you can make that case, and that's a. I'm not going to dispute that argument, and I'm not justifying shooting at police. The problem is they didn't shoot at police. A cop showed up to a protest at an ICE detention center, and he drew his weapon, and he literally prepared to shoot fleeing protesters. These aren't people that were aggressive. These aren't people that were attacking him. They were fleeing. The officer himself said they were fleeing. At what point? So, Benjamin Song said he shot suppressive fire, and the bullet came and hit the officer in the back of the neck. Now, I'm not a physics professor. I'm not a physics major. I'm also not a wizard. So I can't tell you that bullets can bend, because I've yet to find a bullet that actually bends. Especially when you have a Marine who has been trained to fire weapons. They're good. They're not bending bullets good. They're not going to bend the bullet, and it's not going to jump around and hit somebody. That just doesn't happen. There's no way that happens. And they knew this. It's not like this is some fact that they didn't know. They absolutely knew this, because they made it a problem where they told the defense that the defense was not allowed to present the evidence that the officer was shot in the back. The defense asked for the officer's medical records from the hospital. They never received them. The judge himself said that they were not allowed to claim self-defense in the case, because he said they were at the ICE center, so they lost the ability to claim self-defense. They're trying to position it as this is a group of antifa, radicals who, shot a police officer. How? They said, they started running away saying, "Get the rifles." But the person that said that was by all accounts tortured in an interrogation room by police before coming to a plea agreement with them for that. They even arrested one of the protesters' husbands and accused him of, co-conspiracy because he loaded a van with pamphlets. This is the world we're in right now. This is the country we're in, where, we've always said that there's the Justice Department goes too far sometimes, and our prison system's just fucked up. We have an industrial prison complex, and people only go to jail to become better criminals. But we're now in a Tom Cruise Minority Report world, where we're going to charge people with pre-crime, and we're going to say, well, you did this small part, so clearly you're guilty of everything. That doesn't track with how. That's not reality. That's not what it's not how our world works. That's not what our justice system is designed to do. And so I looked into this case, and now, mind you, I'm not a technically savvy person. It's not like I'm sitting there hacking things and getting records that aren't available. I am searching court documents, reading court documents, and if I can find all of this information that easily, then it's there. It's not hidden. It's just that the courts are refusing to do anything about it. And they're not doing anything about it because they want to make a statement. The statement is, if they deem you're Antifa, you go to jail. Benjamin Song got 100 years in prison. 100. 100. There was the exact same day in Waco, Texas, there was a pedophile who was convicted and found guilty of sexually assaulting his son's best friend, who was 12. He got 10 years. What one of those two are more dangerous to have on the streets. The Marine who wanted to protect his fellow people who were, practicing a right he fought for, or the pedophile who sexually assaulted his 12-year-old son's best friend. How are those even? How is that our barometer of justice right now? And then just to make matters even worse, with they're calling them the Prairieland protesters. To make matters even worse for them, here they are. They're protesting. They're using their First Amendment right, and they're standing against government oppression. They're called antifa terrorists, and yet January 6ers are told that they're going to get money. They try to establish a slush fund. How is that? How is this a real world? How is this America? I grew up every morning in school having to say the Pledge of Allegiance. It was liberty and justice for all. When did we stop caring? Because the same people that would demand that you say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag are the exact same people that refuse to follow what it means. But so that's why I had to cover that, the Prairieland protesters, because this is, everybody else right now, like all the other news sources are talking about the fucking reflecting pool. Fuck the reflecting pool. Fuck it. Fuck Iran at that point too, because honestly, I give a fuck about what we're doing over there. I care about the fact that our country is falling apart, and we are actively throwing protesters in jail who disagree with the administration. We have courts, and the judge was appointed by Trump, who is actively suppressing evidence that would prove they're innocent. It doesn't matter anything else in this country. That literally is the most important thing, because this is the death of our free speech, and this is the death of our right to protest. And the problem is now they've set a precedent. The Prairieland precedent. They have said that this is what's going to happen, and this is how it's going to happen, and this is how the court case is going to be run. It is going to happen regardless of the evidence, regardless of the proof. You no longer get a fair trial. On the simple fact that even during juror selection, they threw out the first jury, the judge threw out the first jury, because the judge said that they were too compromised by their radical beliefs. And then they had the second jury where they refused to allow anybody of color on it. And the reasoning was they didn't want anybody with a predisposition to being opposed to the police. I'm going to let that sink in for a second with everybody. They're saying that they're not going to allow African American or people of color, minorities, not to be on the jury selection because they may have a predisposition to not liking the police. And our answer to that, the solution to that problem, is to silence them. What world is this? I named this, so when I started doing the lives and started doing my interviews, I needed to come up with a name. And I figured, fuck it. I'm a medic. No matter how much I try to not be the paramedic writer, that's kind of what I'm always going to be. And so I needed to come up with a name. And I thought, I was like, well, I'll pick something funny, not funny, haha, but like witty or, clever from EMS, something from like my job. And I'll use that to what I do here. And so I was going through a bunch of different ones. There was a handoff. There was, running code and like all these things. And then I stopped and I thought, and I go, status check. And I said, status check works because there's two different types of status check that we have in EMS. There is a status check where somebody calls to see, I want to check on my neighbor. I want to check on my grandmother, my mother. And they say, can I get a status check to their house? And you would think most of the time police would go, but it's usually EMS. The police can't be bothered. The other type of status check we get, it's when we're on scene dealing with a patient, and after 15 minutes, our dispatch, the 911 dispatcher says, can I, status check, calls your unit, status check. And you have to answer up. And then status all set. I actually usually answer the same way. I either say, we good? Or I say, fine and dandy like sour candy. I appreciate it makes me laugh. But we have a status check to make sure everybody at a certain point is safe. And so when I was trying to come up with a name for this, I said, I think that works because we're definitely past that 15-minute mark and nobody's checking on the people. Nobody's actually making sure we're good. So it seemed appropriate to be status checked. And I could tell you from my research, from looking what's happening, our status is not good. We are not doing well. We would call this, we'd say this is a 49. A 50, when you hit your 50 button, that sends the entire house. That means everybody, all hands on deck, get to my location, shit's going down. A 49 means it's going to be there in a minute. Get me somebody. We need somebody. We just watched the government throw people in jail for protesting. This is definitely a 49. We're definitely at that 49. Most of the people who were just present there at the protest received 50 years in jail. 50. Again, January 6ers were pardoned. January 6ers who attacked the Capitol. I don't care what they say in the White House right now. They attacked the Capitol. We watched it happen. They were pardoned. Now they're being promised thousands and thousands of dollars. But the Prairieland protesters are facing life in prison because they were present. It's just A doesn't equal B doesn't equal C. It doesn't add up. And the more you look at it and the more you actually watch what's going on, you see this is this is the plan. This is how they're setting it up. They've stopped pretending. They've stopped hiding it. They've stopped making it where it could be this, it could be that. Now it is just an attack, right? Now we are just under attack. And so I had to put off that article and put up the one today. I please read it. I want you guys to understand it because this is one of those moments where this will be the end of democracy if things do not change. This is not a dog whistle to say, hey, this could be bad or this could be bad. This isn't a reflecting tool of, oh, they're spending money and lying to the taxpayers. This is American citizens being thrown in jail for protesting. And there's no protection from them or for them. And so, again, please read the story, but follow it too. I want you to please make sure you stay as informed about this as possible because it's not going to get better. That's hopefully starting next week. I can get back to my normal of, letting people know why I'm doing these. But as I said, this was kind of an emergency episode. It was really important to let everybody know this is happening. And it was also important to let everybody know ICE is absolutely still doing what they did to Paige and they're doing it to other people. I think it's only a matter of time till, I get a knock on my door. I'll make sure that they get a warm welcome when they come to my door. But I want everybody out there, please, 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 please. This is a community that we've built together. This is a community I'm proud of. It's a strong community. It's a very welcoming and warming community. The love you guys showed for Paige was outstanding. Please stay safe. But also remember, like I say all the time, stay loud, stay informed, and stay dangerous. It's the only way we're going to win. Everybody, have a great rest of the day.